I can't wait to talk college football with you. That is no lie. That is no joke. We're here at the Voice of College Football, and we do this each and every day at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We understand we're about 20 or 25 minutes late. That is the reason why you check out the community post with our schedule each and every day, because we listed this last night that we may be delayed. My eyes are still dilated from the appointment and the eye drops from the eye doctor, but we are happy to be coming from the eye doctor with a clean bill of health optically. So I can see barely. I was driving home squinting, practically tears flowing down my face, trying to navigate the sun. But I think we've adjusted by now. Great. Appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. And again, this is Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And for right now, it's the College Football Show. It may end up being the College Football Show. Time permitting today, we will go through your naming recommendations and suggestions. We've received, 25 or 30. Thank you. Keep them coming. Don't leave them in the chat. I saw a couple in the chat yesterday. They're gone. They're still there somewhere, but I'm not going back and retrieving them. That would be a waste of time. We are not about wasting time here at the Voice of College Football. And believe me, Mark here is not about wasting time. No wasting time anymore. No, we don't do that. So that's one condition of this show going forward. So we determined months ago that after Big Ten and SEC Media Days, we would go live every morning with you. And we will stay on depending on the schedule of the network. So, for example, on Wednesdays, we typically have our Ohio State show at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So, therefore, we're going to do a 1-hour show on Wednesdays. If we've got a good response, maybe we'll back that up to 9 a.m. But we're going to go as long every day as this show is being supported. So we're going to go about an hour. And then if we are being supported, then I'll stay on all day. Again, depending on the rest of the schedule. Do appreciate you being here. The Voice of College Football. The Amazon links in the description section of all the videos. Every video has the Amazon link right there at the top. So please use the Amazon link when you shop on Amazon, and we know that most of you do. Please use the Amazon link in the description section. It doesn't cost you a penny. Whatever you are paying for that product through Amazon, it is going to be exactly the same if you are using our link. Also, it is not changing your shopping experience. It will instantaneously redirect you to your account. You will, in a flash of an eye, you will not even see it. We have tried this out with many, many people. Everybody says the same thing. It's the same shopping experience. All right. And for naming the show, if we choose your name, then you get an item from the merch store here at the Voice of College Football. No dollar amount limit. Anything you want from the merch store at the Voice of College Football. So again, we've probably received 25 or 30 names. If we have time today, then we will certainly run through those names. We will do that sometime this week. I know Friday is Friday and Friday is tomorrow, and Friday is the end of the week for this show. So we will do it today or tomorrow. All right. This weekend, hopefully by the end of the weekend, we are, instead of me producing videos on these, we're just going to go live and go right through it. So I started to produce videos with my 2024 program rankings. And so we did the first roughly half of the FBS. I'm just going to go live, rip off the rest, and you guys can debate me on my program rankings for 2024. These are not all-time program rankings. These are not even team rankings for 2024. You may be scratching your head saying, what's the difference between a program ranking and a team ranking, especially if it's for 2024. I explain in the videos. So anyway, we will march them from 134 all the way up to number 1, the best program in college football. If you caught us yesterday, and we can continue this discussion, because by the time I shut my app and we took some calls about some other topics, I don't even know that we really discussed. There were a lot of comments in the chat concerning elite and blue bloods. I see this all over the place. This seems to be the topic concerning college football in the off season. Blue bloods. Are you a blue blood? What's a blue blood? Can you lose blue blood status? Who are the blue bloods? And as I explained yesterday, I am more in the elite category. I believe that the elite status is what I focus on. Blue bloods don't change. If you're a blue blood, you're a blue blood. So if you'd like to discuss that, of course, the call-in line is in the chat as well. Elites, blue bloods. Blue bloods, Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame, Texas, Oklahoma, USC, Alabama, blue bloods. They're not changing. Georgia's never going to be a blue blood. Clemson will never be a blue blood. They could win the next 100 national championships in a row. They are not a blue blood. That's not what the term is about. If you don't understand the term, look up the term. That's why I use the term elite. Can Georgia be elite? Yes, they can be elite. They are elite. They are the most elite right now. They are the definition of elite. That's why I don't use the term blue blood myself. But if that's the conversation, I will give not even my definition, the definition of a blue blood, and then apply my estimation, which seems to be pretty much in line with most college football analysts, historians, in terms of blue bloods. Nebraska's got a case. Penn State's got a case. Tennessee's got a case. Georgia's obviously, but again, it goes back to the origin. Blue blood goes back to the origin of the sport. So nothing you do now can change this. We brought up an interesting case with Army. Somebody in the chat, I believe it was Aaron, brought up a great case with Minnesota. Minnesota being a blue blood. What? Nah? Huh? How's that possible? Because you need to understand the term blue blood. Okay, elite. Who's elite? There's only 4 schools that are elite right now. Sorry. It's a short list. It might be the shortest it's been in ages. In whatever order. And if I'm going to make an order, I would say Georgia, Michigan, Alabama, Ohio State. Those are the elites. And that's how I would order them right now. They are the elites. Clemson was an elite a couple years ago. I believe after 3 subpar seasons, they have dropped from elite status. Can they regain it? Of course they can. We talked about the schools yesterday that could gain elite status pretty quickly. Florida State, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Penn State, Oregon would be at the top of my list. Texas, 1 season. No, you're not elite yet. Maybe 1 more follow-up season to that, especially a national championship. If Notre Dame, Penn State, Florida State, Texas win a national championship, Oregon, I will automatically, boom, elite. Or if they make deep runs into the playoffs with exceptional records for 2 or 3 more years, okay, elite. A lot of people get hung up on Oregon. They've never won a national championship. But elite means now elite. Doesn't matter that they didn't win a national championship. Syracuse has won a national championship. They are not closer to being elite than Oregon. That's where your argument breaks down. So, elite. Miami's been elite. They're not elite now. They have a long ways to go from being elite. But they were elite from 1983 through about 2003, 4 in that range. Miami, elite. Florida's been elite. Tennessee's been elite. LSU's been elite. USC has been elite, of course, many times for most of its history. I actually think that when USC is playing its best football, when USC has it going, when USC has the right coach and the administration is in line and they are supporting that coach and they are doing everything that they've done in the past to maximize their resources and their potential, USC, more times than anybody in the sport, has dominated college football. USC. Ohio State's the most consistent elite. I don't think that can be questioned. Really can't be questioned. Over the last 70 years, Ohio State has been the most consistent elite, but maximized to the hilt their ceiling. USC. John McKay, John Robinson, Pete Carroll, USC. Who else has been elite? If we take it to a reasonable time frame in the past, 1970s, I think that's the list. I think that's about it. Virginia Tech would have been close, but they were never elite. All right. I do appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. We had a conversation a couple weeks ago with Phil Steele. Check out the video here. And Phil Steele is going to come back sometime before the season starts. Tony Barnhart, the Mr. College Football, has agreed to come on the show. We've got a recording today with Peter Birds from SEC Network. So we've got some excellent guests lined up. I was driving home from the eye doctor thinking, what are we talking about today? I've not had a chance to catch up with anything going on today. There's probably nothing going on today. Of course, fall camp is open for all of college football this week. Pretty much everybody is opened on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday today throughout all of college football. But for as much as fans want info and intel and video and everything to know every little false step that's been made on the practice field, the truth is that just no information comes out for quite some time. No real information. Now, there are sports writers, our guys on the Ohio State show, of course, Steve, Tony, and Kevin. They go out to practice. They can pick up some intel. They know more about what's going on than the rest of us because they can show up to practice and they will be able to do so twice this week. But they can only see so much because they are not allowed to stay for the entire practice. We had a sit down with Logan Robinson from Knoll Game Day this week, who's been out to practice. And we ran through every position, both sides of the football for Florida State. Check out the videos. They're being released on the Florida State channel. So those guys know something. But aside from injuries, now, God forbid, but it's going to happen at some point tomorrow, today, next week, boom, first major injury. So-and-so is out for the season. So we'll get those reports, of course, coming out from training camp. Auburn is tearing it up on the recruiting trail. We're going to find out exactly why. And so we've got something set up with Auburn here in the next couple of days. We also have a Clemson record schedule with Jason Priester. So we want to line up Clemson as well. All right, great stuff here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you stopping by. So I thought, well, there's not much to talk about concerning fall camp. I clicked on our friends at ESPN. So I got to say that it's just a default mechanism. It is still habit, probably will never be broken. If I am looking up statistics, I go to College Football Reference. It is the best site available. If you're not aware, collegefootballreference.com, which has its sister sites, Major League Baseball. I think it's just baseballreference.com, profootballreference.com. Exhaustive. Anything you could possibly want statistically is on that site. That's my go-to. But if I'm just going to check for headlines, I don't know who post the best headlines or the most timely or the most interesting, or because there are headlines and then there are headlines, meaning headlines like real news, like somebody got injured, they're out for the season. The Michigan NCAA penalty has been announced. That's hard news, real news. Then there is, okay, Kirby Smart said something in media days, and we're going to make something out of it type of news. So I just default to our friends at ESPN. And so I saw driving home as I was peering through my squinted eyes, trying to make my way down the highway and not crash. And there was a dead stop of a tractor trailer that ran into and rear-ended some poor individual. So it was one of those deals where you can't see and you just see, and then suddenly you figure out, okay, everybody else is moving in all these other lanes, but he's not moving. Oh, they are at a dead standstill. So fortunately, I had enough sight to see that. Oh, that I took a second to pop up on my phone. Of course, not while driving at a red light. That ESPN had two interesting, but I'm not going to say that they're ingenious topics. They're just typical off-season topics that everyone looks at every year, including us. And that would be who can make the college football playoff. And number two, their toughest and easiest schedules. We will probably not have time to hit on both of those, but we can start with who can make the college football playoff. Who can make the college football playoff? ESPN listed 30 teams. I cannot see those 30 teams because it's on their insider, but we don't need them. We just need the topic, and here we go. Again, it's not revolutionary. We are not stealing a topic. It's one that a zillion people use every season. But of course, we've got a new playoff system, and the field is opened up. This used to be a situation where you would ask the question in the offseason, who can reasonably make the playoff? And it was a 14 playoff. And so you would say, about 6 teams, 8 teams, 10, maybe. Well, now we're up to 12 teams, and ESPN listed 30. I started to run through the conferences, and I came up with a whole more larger list than 30 myself. And before we continue to go through my 30 teams and see yours as well, let's see what's going on in the chat, comments and questions. I don't see anything here. Appreciate you all being here. LFG letting everyone know he is like number 3. Hopefully we are up to about 100 likes by now. That would be good. All right, no comments or questions, but we've got some support coming in from Blue Wolverine. We appreciate you being here, Blue Wolverine. Thank you for the super sticker. Okay. I would love to have graphics to accompany this list, but we don't have that luxury. So we will go with this. Who can make the college football playoff? It's a huge field of teams that can make the playoff. Why? Because when you look at the SEC and the Big Ten, you simply say, who's good enough? Who is going to deliver that 10-2 record to make the playoff? Who has that opportunity? I believe I did not hear it out of his mouth or a direct quote, but I saw a couple headlines the other day that Kirk Herbstreit apparently said that Rutgers is the dark horse playoff contender out of the Big Ten. The easy connection to make there is that Greg Schiano is building a nice program. He's done a good job. Greg Schiano believes he has more NFL players on his team than at any time, probably in Rutgers history. All that's well and good, but it's more about the schedule. Who in the Big Ten office loves Rutgers? I think there should be an investigation. They don't play the probable 5 best teams in the conference. How does that happen? When we get into conversations about schedules and uneven, unfair schedules within conferences, people tend to look at the very best teams, the expected best teams, and do they play comparable schedules? Is it fair? We had this conversation with our guy George on the Florida State channel on our Florida State show last night, looking at Florida State's schedule against other supposed contenders in the ACC. But the argument for me goes beyond that. It's not about just making it fair for the teams that are supposed to be the contenders. The schedule should be equalized as much as possible. Of course, we can't forecast the future perfectly, but that should be the intent for everyone. I don't care if you are Vanderbilt. There shouldn't be this mindset and approach that, well, Vanderbilt's the worst. They're going to suck anyway. Their schedule's going to be whatever it's going to be. Well, we'll just give them the easiest teams because they're Vandy. No, everybody should play an equitable schedule. This is not the NFL, nor should it be treated like the NFL, which the NFL came out decades ago under Pete Rozelle and clearly stated, this is our intent. This is our purpose, to create parity. That's what's wrong with this society. We're trying to create parity where it doesn't belong. No, you create an even playing field, and then you allow the people, the teams that work the hardest, have the most talent, have the most skill, the most ingenuity, whatever the industry, you allow them to elevate and prove that they deserve what they've earned. You don't, like I saw a picture the other day, a meme on social media where it was showing this warped, completely warped sense of perspective on this issue in society. And it showed people looking over a fence to try to watch a baseball game. And the proper way, now we're not talking about this exact situation. This is what you call a parable, or you call it an example, not legitimately. If you were at a baseball game, you were trying to peek through the fence, look over the fence, you would obviously, if you had a guy that was 6'6" and he could just look over the fence, you just leave him alone. He's fine. He can watch the game. And then if his little kid needs a huge box, you give him a huge box. That's a practical situation. But giving this, making this a analogy for life and for business, and in this case, competition on the field, you give everybody the same size box. Everybody gets the same size box. And then what you choose to do with it is based on your ability, your work ethic, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Not, oh, Vandy sucks, we'll give them an easy schedule. Alabama's awesome, we'll give them a tough schedule. No, fair schedules. So why Rutgers doesn't play the possible 5 best teams in the conference, and really the only team, probably USC, maybe Wisconsin, that has a chance to ascend into that top 5, those would be the only teams. So they're definitely missing 5 of the top 6 or 7 teams, probably the top 5. No Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Iowa, Oregon for Rutgers. Dumb. Big Ten, you screwed up. It's just stupid. It's moronic. Doesn't make sense. Can't be defended. Cannot be defended. Maybe it was just a little bit difficult for them to work out schedules and travel and figure all that out. I'm not saying it's easy, but this is what you're paid the big bucks to be able to execute. So you should have maybe worked a little harder at that process. And there are scheduling quirks all over the country. They're not as bad as they used to be. Now that we've banished divisions in the ACC and the SEC, that was a complete debacle that I used to rail on constantly, produced all sorts of videos explaining why the SEC scheduling system sucked and the SEC was stupid. Like, I cannot believe I'm sitting here actually telling conferences that have been that successful, that have that much brain power. They're really not stupid, but they are in that way. They operated for 30 years in the SEC and in the ACC for lesser time. But from 1992 until last season, they operated in the SEC in a faulty scheduling system that could have been corrected easily, but they didn't. They were just being stupid. Now, somebody entered the room with some intelligence and fixed their scheduling for the most part. It's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect because you don't have the ability of forecasting correctly, perfectly, how good the teams are going to be this season. But based on last season's performance, based on rivalries and protected games, you can build a more equitable schedule for everyone. All right. I said all that, not meaning to get to who can make the college football playoff. Heather Dinich of ESPN says 30 teams. I say more than that. Because we've got this situation, again, SEC, Big Ten. If you're the fourth best team in the conference, you're probably going to the, if you're the third best team in the SEC and the Big Ten, you're in. Fourth best team, maybe. You're 10-2, you're in. You're 9-3, you probably have, based on history and going through the analysis of the college football playoff era to date, you have about a 20% chance of getting in. I addressed this on the Miami show last night because we were talking about what is it going to take for Miami to make the college football playoff if they do not win the ACC. 10-2, as I pointed out last night, has been the cutoff. Go through all the playoff years and implement the 12-team system. That is exactly the cutoff for the Power 5, as we include Pac-12 to the last 10 years. That has been the exact cutoff. If you're 10-2, you're in. If you're 9-3, you're probably not in. You only have about a 10 or 20% chance, maybe. I know one year Penn State was 9-3, and they were number 12 in the country, and the group of 5 was within that top 12, 2018 UCF. So Penn State would have made it at 9-3, but that's pretty rare. But I offered this up. I said, what about this? So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of favoritism is given to the Big Ten and the SEC. Is it going to be assumed, or hopefully the Big Ten and the SEC, if they are in fact the best conferences, which they are, there would have to be an improbable, almost impossible turn of events this season that suddenly would show us that Utah and Miami and Oklahoma State and Kansas State are better than Georgia and Texas and Michigan and Penn State and Ohio State and Oregon. It's not going to happen. Will one of them maybe jump up? Maybe. Probably not. I'm going to say no. It's not going to happen. So the scenario I brought up on the Miami show last night, which you should catch because Cam's amazing and tells stories like nobody else and has great football knowledge of Miami in particular, but recruiting background and a great storyteller, fun guy. We've been doing our show on the Miami channel longer than any show in the history of the network, 388 episodes. So catch us on Wednesday nights. Anyway, but I brought up this scenario. I said, what if Miami goes 10-2? Look at their schedule. If they lose to the two most probable teams to beat them, Florida State, probably Virginia Tech, even though that's a home game for Miami or possibly this first game against Florida. Miami's going to be 10-2. What are their wins going to be? Either Virginia Tech or Florida. And they don't play NC State. They don't play Clemson. Okay, they're going to be 11. No, we've got them out of the ACC championship game. Or even if they make the ACC championship game, well, if they win, obviously, then they're in the playoff. They're 11-2. They're in the playoff. Or let's say they go 11-1 and lose the ACC championship game. They've lost to, let's say, Clemson and Florida State, and they would have wins against Florida, who's probably going to be 5-7, 6-6, and Virginia Tech. They don't play Louisville. They don't play NC State. Miami's resume is going to be pretty marginal. Michigan could be 9-3, right? They lose close to Texas. They lose close to Oregon. They lose close to Ohio State. Okay. But they look like they belong. Close losses, let's say. Well, they've got a win against USC, and they will have defeated some decent teams in the Big Ten. I don't have their schedule right in front of me. I know they don't play Iowa or Penn State. They play Washington. They play Maryland, probably, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, a decent run of games in the Big Ten. And more importantly, if they can stay close in those 3 games, or whatever 3 games you want to give them to lose. Maybe they lose to USC at home and they beat Ohio State or they beat Oregon. Well, then that kind of balances itself out in that would not be the greatest loss. Let's say if USC is 8-4 and they lose to them at home, but they counter that with a win against one of the top 5 teams in the country. Bottom line, that 9-3 resume is eons better than Miami's 10-2. So, who can make the college football playoff? Then our other factor in this, out of many, but the next major factor is, of course, what opens this up to numerous teams is that we've got a consolidation of the best teams in the country, in the ACC, in the SEC, and the Big Ten. You know, if Florida State is not quite as good as maybe they have been and should be, let's put Clemson in that bucket as well. Maybe they regress to the pack a little bit. Let's say Utah is not quite as good as some people think they are. All the best teams in the country are in the SEC and the Big Ten. All of them. The ACC could have the 13th best team in the country be their champion, and the Big 12 the same thing. This is what opens it up, especially in the Big 12. Look at how many candidates there are for the conference championship. So let's count. And before we do, I will check the chat to see if anybody's got any comments or questions. We got something coming in from Matthew Miller. Appreciate that, Matthew. Hey, Mark. I picked over 7 for Syracuse. You got into it with Corey Braddock. Can I get your opinion on it? With Corey about Syracuse? I don't think I'll offend Corey by letting everyone know Corey doesn't know anything about Syracuse. Why were we talking about Syracuse? This conversation has completely escaped me. Talking Corey Braddock, Iowa guy? We always talk about Iowa in the Big Ten. 7 for Syracuse. Over 7? That means it has to be 8. First-year head coach? Really? I know their schedule's light, and we looked at their schedule on the Miami show last night briefly. I just glanced at it because I knew it was weak. So, in these expanded conferences, it's more about who you missed than it's more about all sorts of crap popping up on me. It's more about who you missed than it is who you play, in a sense. Okay. Of course, 17 teams in the ACC. You play 8 conference games. You miss 8 teams. It's really stupid. Yes. Okay. So Syracuse can either win the ACC championship. We're all laughing. Or they could go 10-2. We will look at a 10-2 record for Syracuse. But to my previous point, no. This isn't about Syracuse making the playoff. My bad. It's about them getting to 8 wins. Okay. They should have 4 non-conference wins. They should, although don't be surprised. Ohio University under Tim Albin, the last couple seasons, 10-3, 10-3. Did they win the MAC championship? I can't remember. No, Miami won it. They almost made the MAC championship game. I believe they did the season before. They've got a really good head coach. They beat Iowa State last year. That's not a gimme. I bet the line on that game, I bet Syracuse is a 6-point favorite. So, yes, Syracuse should beat Ohio. They should beat a group of 5 at home. There are other non-conference games. Holy Cross, whose head coach, by the way, has left to go to one of the worst group of 5 teams. Can't remember now. This is also not a automatic win going to UNLV to take on Barry Odom in a much improved UNLV team that went 9-5 and went to the Mountain West Conference Championship game last year. UConn, that should be a win. Again, that's not guaranteed. Syracuse. Okay. Let's say they go 3-1 non-conference. Should go 4-0. Let's say they go 3-1. Georgia Tech, Stanford at home. They should win both of those games. 5-1. They go to NC State. They're 5-2. At Pitt, Virginia Tech, at BC, at Cal. Those 4. Probably they go 1-3. So they're 6-5, and they play Miami. That's 6-6. Yeah. Well, they get to 8 if they win the 4 non-conference games, and they beat all these marginal teams at home like Georgia Tech, Stanford. That gets them to 6. I don't know about Virginia Tech at home. That only gets them to, well, if they can upset Miami or win on the road at BC. I'm not feeling too good about this Syracuse pick at 8. I'm not sold on that one. All right, Matthew. Yeah. I am not the expert on win totals. I do pretty well, though. I did them for a couple of years. I didn't do one this season because I was inspired by Steve Dace. He is the master of the win totals. If you want to see win totals pull through at like 75%, Steve Dace is your guy. Now, he inspired me a couple of years ago because he would release his win totals. Then he would have me on his show, have me review them, poke holes in them. Then I thought, well, why don't I do win totals? And I had a nice little record for a couple of years. I was 13-8, something like that. But did not do any win totals. But of course, it's not too late. Maybe we'll do some win totals. Let's jot that down. Win totals. I know one for sure. I know there's one out there that just seems so incredibly obvious, and it has been 2 out of the last 3 years. I don't get Vegas on that one. But I don't see Syracuse winning 8 games. All right, back to the 30 teams that can make the playoffs. And again, the link's in the chat if you would like to talk college football with me. So, let's go SEC and Big Ten because they've got the glut of teams that can make it just at large route. Who can make the playoffs out of the Big Ten? Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, USC, Oregon, Iowa. Could Wisconsin make the playoff? Yeah, they could, but if they had Rutgers scheduled, then I would include them on this list. But we are stretching the boundaries a bit, but still has to be reasonable. I know apparently Kirk Herbstreit listed Rutgers as a college football playoff dark horse. And I know, as I just discussed, that their schedule is ridiculously light. It's still tough to get Rutgers to 10 wins. Let's see Rutgers. And if there are other things going on in college football where we've got some 10-2 competition with Rutgers, that schedule is going to kick them out anyway. So we've got 6 teams that can make it in the Big Ten, and I do not believe that Rutgers is number 7, and I'm not giving Iowa the benefit of the doubt. Okay, Rutgers, they will win the 2 non-conference games to start the season. At Virginia Tech, they beat them by 3 scores last year, but they've got to go to Blacksburg. But let's say they win that game because we're trying to get them to 10 wins. Washington, at Nebraska, Wisconsin. They're not winning all those games. And if they do, hey, they're better than I thought. Let's say they lose one game before October 19th when they play UCLA. So they win all these games except somebody beats them, probably Nebraska on the road. They do get Washington at home. They do get Wisconsin at home. But man, we're stretching it there to say that they're going to navigate those 5 games and only lose one. But that's where we're going. 5-1 plus the 2 at the top is 7-1. Then they close out at USC. Could they win that game? Yeah, they could. But that's an uphill battle. That's about a 25% shot. So let's say they lose their second game and they drop to 7-2. They close with Minnesota, Maryland on the road, Illinois, and Michigan State. Can they win all those games? Absolutely. Are they better than all those teams as it stands right now? Yes, they are. Are they substantially? So it's a narrow path, but yes, I could say that it is reasonable that Rutgers could go 10-2 with most likely their losses either in Blacksburg against Virginia Tech, at USC, at Nebraska. 2 of those 3, they got to pull one of those out, and then they've got to be flawless beyond that. And then they've got to hope that there's not a glut of SEC and Big Ten teams at 10-2 that could match them, because that schedule is going to kick them out. What they're most likely to do, Rutgers, is win the first 2. And then we'll take it through the next 4 as well. Split those 4. That puts them at 4-2. Then 4-2, they split UCLA, USC. They're 5-3. Then they've got this stretch drive with those 4 teams, and they go 3-1. And Rutgers should finish 8-4. That's the most likely situation for them. All right, so we're counting possible college football playoff teams, and ESPN's Heather Dennis says 30 have a shot. We just listed 6 from the Big Ten. Let's go to the SEC. Alabama, Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, Missouri, Oklahoma, Ole Miss. Seven. 7 plus the 6. Did I miss anyone? I don't believe so. We're going to look at Texas A&M. We're going to say that Florida has no chance. Vanderbilt, no chance. South Carolina. Kentucky, no chance. Arkansas, Mississippi State. Auburn. Let's look at Auburn. Let's look at Texas A&M. So we got 7 in the SEC before these two. So we're up to 13 that could make the playoff. And you guys let me know if you don't agree with my selections of who could make the playoffs. Let's look at Auburn's schedule. And Auburn's got it rough. They always have. And they weren't able to shake Alabama or Georgia, of course, because those are rivalries that have to be played. But the SEC needs to lighten the load on Auburn a bit outside of those two games. They just need to do that. Let's see if they did. I've looked at the schedule probably 20 times, but I don't remember it. Alabama A&M, California at home. They almost lost to the Golden Bears on the road last year. Have to win that game. Of course, New Mexico is a lousy group of 5. Arkansas is at home. They're 4-0. Oklahoma at home. That's a winnable game. 5-0. At Georgia, they lose. They're 5-1. They go to Missouri. They go to Kentucky. They're 5-1. Let's say out of the next 4, they win 3, which they should. They're now 8-2, and they finish with Texas A&M and Alabama. So what this really comes down to is they can't slip up. They're going to lose to Georgia on the road. They, of course, took them down to the wire. The unfortunate thing about Auburn is they have a recent history of playing Alabama to the wire, outplaying Alabama. 2017, they beat them. 2019, they beat them. 2021, they had them beat until Tank Bigsby ran the ball out of bounds. And then, of course, last year was the 4th and 32 play. So they should have 4 consecutive wins at home against Alabama, but they blew the last 2. They don't play them at home. They play them on the road. And they have lost by an average of 4 touchdowns to Alabama in Tuscaloosa. So they will have to play much better. But what it comes down to is they've got to beat Texas A&M. The teams that challenge them, that are on their level, they've got to win all those games. They got to beat Oklahoma. They've got to beat Kentucky and Texas A&M. Then they have to beat either Alabama or Missouri. So could they make the playoff? Yeah, they could make the playoff. They're not going to make the playoff, and I'm not even going to put them on the reasonable playoff list, because if they had a huge non-conference game where I thought, okay, maybe 9-3 gets them in, but I don't see that happening unless the committee really likes a closing run. They go to Missouri and win, and they go to Alabama and win the final month of the season. Well, then they'll get the nod. But Auburn, we are not including the Tigers. Texas A&M. Who could beat them reasonably? Notre Dame at Florida, Missouri, LSU's 4, at Auburn's 5, Texas 6. So they've got 6 possible losses, probable losses. Well, they almost have to beat Notre Dame right out of the gate to stay in front of that 10-2 mark. They go to Florida, they win that game. The Gators they're a pretty good football team, actually. Their record's going to be awful, but they're pretty good. So that's not going to be easy, going to Florida and winning. Let's say they lose one of the 3 games that we have on the board, Notre Dame, Florida, or Mizzou. That puts them at 5-1. Let's say they lose to either. This is what it comes down to. They're 5-1 at this point. Out of LSU, Auburn on the road, and Texas, they have to win 2 of those 3. That's unlikely. We're going to keep Texas A&M off the board. Although that Notre Dame game could be a good ace in their back pocket. We'll include Texas A&M. Let's include Texas A&M. That's 8 out of the SEC, 6 out of the Big Ten. Notre Dame is 1. That's 15. Now we go to the ACC and we go to the Big 12, and it's all about winning the conference championship. It's going to be difficult. The same team that can get to 10-2 and possibly have a shot at an at-large in the Big 12 and the ACC are going to be the same teams that can win the championship. So we might as well just count up the teams in the ACC and the Big 12 that can win the conference championship. And in the Big 12, Utah, Arizona, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Iowa State, TCU, West Virginia, I think that's it. UCF, do we include UCF? That'd be 8 out of the Big 12. No Cincinnati, no Houston, no Texas Tech, no Baylor. Texas Tech, all right. No Colorado. I don't know. In that conference, 8 out of the Big 12 can make it. That lifts us up to 23 teams that can make the playoff. Let's go to the ACC. Florida State, Clemson, Miami. NC State could win the ACC. Louisville could win the ACC. Virginia Tech could win the ACC. Those 6, absolutely. That brings us up to 29. And there are a lot of people out there that like SMU as a dark horse for the playoff. I included them in my dark horse playoff list. Yeah, there has to be a monumental tie for second place, and then SMU win this cataclysmic 4-way tie for second place, get into the championship game, play the game of their lives, beat Florida State or Clemson, and get into the college football playoff. But that would put us at 30 right there, and we've not included the group of 5. Who could make it out of the group of 5? Boise State. Who's really a contender out of the Mountain West? Well, I got to tell you, I'm not necessarily anything close to an expert on what's going on in the group of 5 and who's supposed to win, other than the teams that are being talked about at the very top. Memphis, Liberty. A lot of Memphis, a lot of Liberty. Let's look at Phil Steele's rankings to see who he believes are the best group of 5 teams. We'll put those together with the schedule. So these are not his power rankings, but his top 40. Phil Steele has Boise State at 16, UTSA 21. SMU almost came out of my mouth, but they're in the power conference. Memphis, 26. Liberty, 27. That's 4. Texas State at 36. 8-5 last year. Big breakout year for them. App State at 38. Louisiana at 40. Air Force, 43. Miami of Ohio, 46. Tulane, 45. I'm going to say Memphis, Tulane, Texas, San Antonio, Boise State, Liberty. So we're into the low 30s. There are close to 35 teams that can make the playoffs, and this makes it exciting. It makes it exciting. I don't like what's happened to college football. I don't like the breakdown of the regionality, but the matchups are going to be exceptional. Exceptional matchups. Phenomenal matchups. We do appreciate you being here, the voice of college football. And once again, if you name the show, this show, we're here Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern time. If you name this show, then you get some free gear. Unlimited price amount for one item at the Voice of College Football merch store. And shoot, why don't we go through some of these names? Let's see what we like, what we don't like. Okay. I got to say it's going to be difficult to win this contest because the names that I like, and this is kind of rare, but they came from me because I'm not good at naming shows. Let's see. We had these listed. Oh boy, these are going to be tough to find. They should be in the comments section, obviously, of all these videos, but let's go to our comments and see if we can find them. They should be. I should do a response video to these comments, just in general. Just in general, that's what I should do. I used to do that from time to time. And that was quite amusing to respond to the comments. Okay, what do we got here? Da, 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 da. Strong Side College Football Show. Maybe I'll take screenshots of the. I may wipe them out. We're going to start a list. Oh, it's going to take forever. Strong Side College Football Show. Gotta say, I don't know what you're talking about. What does that refer to? Strong Side College Football Show. Got it. If somebody could explain that to me. Then we've got J. Kellum 147. We appreciate a second suggestion, which I understand much better. The Voice of College Football Daily Update Training Camp Edition. Well, problem is training camp stops. Number two, I don't believe it's really referred to typically as training camp because this is not an NFL show. So we will put it on the list, but we will probably never speak of it again. We do appreciate the recommendation. What was that? Daily Update Training Camp Edition. Wow. What else do we got here? Can you guys see this? The Daily College Football Kickoff with Mark Rogers. Wow, that sounds official. Nicely done there, Stephen. Maybe I can copy and paste these. Stephen, thank you for the suggestion there. I had not considered that. We've got Enzo. Thank you for the compliment. Cheaters. Somebody, is that a name suggestion there? We've got George, of course, with us. Good show, good list. Thank you. Jack Lambert, 4 Super Bowl wins. Yeah, I think that was in response to, yes, a short I just produced. I produced a short the other day where I went down a pretty impressive list of accomplishments for one particular school that has one of the worst, and I think actually does have the worst winning percentage in the history of college football all time. and wanted everyone to take a guess as to what program I was talking about. And then somebody had a good suggestion that I should just keep pumping these out. I could probably come up with I know I could come up with some interesting facts on every program that would be tough enough to try to guess what program I was talking about. We could do that. Billy J says today's voice of choice, and keep those cheesy 1970s ABC promos alive. Those were the days, weren't they? You had Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley and Three's Company. Yes. All right. Today's voice of choice. Gotta say, that one's not hitting me too well. Voice of choice. All right. Well, thank you for the suggestion. These are all appreciated. Whoa. Is this a suggestion here? Keep the vocals up, or alternatively, Mr. Rogers' anti-Meridim edition? Woo! Okay. We got 2 suggestions out of 444 Chroma. No, that didn't work. When I was going to be starting an audio podcast, one of my best friends suggested that I call it oh shoot, wait a minute. Yes, college football paradigm. And the more I thought about it, the more I liked it. So we've got 2 suggestions coming in from 444 Chroma. Drum Major Daily. That's going to be under some serious consideration. Let me tell you there, Bimba 7579. Going to be thinking about that one for hours. Drum Major Daily. Okay. The smack zone of college football with Mark Rogers. Bring it tough or don't bother calling in with a soft take. Well, it's a little wordy, but I love the attitude there. I typically don't smack people down. However, when they do bring soft takes, we don't let people off the hook. That's part of our mantra here at the Voice of College Football. I even point out people when I catch them in the chat, spewing out garbage and spewing out incorrect information. So I like where you're headed with that. Maybe we could announce that the first day and then just make it one long acronym. We'll call it TSZ, CFB, MRBT, DBCST. The Morning Voice. We've heard that a few times. Thank you, Dave. And you guys can see these, right? I believe. Yes. Then we've got, well, we're definitely not going to name it Go Blue. And not even Go Knights. Thank you, UCF Realist. Oh, responding to my conversation with Phil Steele. And then I do believe that that's probably, well, that was just 4 days ago. Okay. The other spot where these would be to the post that we check out our post from the other day, because we got some suggestions there. There it is. Name our new daily 10 a.m. Eastern Time show featuring guests, your calls, and my rants, and win a free item from our merch store. I've got to edit that line. We got a little typo there. Looks like we got 7. We've got, from Stephen, thank you for that, the daily college football kickoff with Mark Rogers. Maybe that's what he already stated. I think we got that one. We've got Michael with the smack zone. Yes, we got that one. Blue Wolverine coming in with this one. The Voice Daily. Your Voice Daily. Sorry, your Voice Daily. We've got the Morning Voice. We got Your Voice Daily. Should we possibly do a spin off of, I don't know, sore throats, inflamed throats? Joey likes the Voice Daily. Got that. The Daily Voice, the Voice Daily. The morning kickoff, the kickoff show, the end zone. I don't think we're going to be having too many kickoffs on Tuesday. So I think we're going to leave those alone. Oh, we got some more here. The coach's voice, the coach. What? Haven't had a coach on for a while, so I don't think we're going to go that route. 3rd and inches. I don't know what that pertains to. 3rd and inches. I don't know. I think we're going to take maybe some ridicule for that one. So we'll leave that one alone. But thanks for all the suggestions, Joey. Very nice. You had like 5 or 6 of them. So I believe that's it. We've got about 20 suggestions there. I think I got some other ones as well somewhere packed away. Mike, this is a good one here. JT was short show. Okay. How about JT was short show is a good suggestion. Or how about this one, Mike? We're still whining 8 years later. Maybe that would be good. That would be a good one too. In the trenches, Tukey G. Oh, there's always got to be somebody out there playing off of Marky Mark. And why the Boston dialect? Number 1, I don't have a Boston dialect. Number 2, it's a bad place for college football. Number 3, we're not that. I don't know, LFG. I'm just questioning your. Ferris is back in it about Ryan Day today. Okay. What has Ryan Day done wrong today? Apparently not prepared his football team well enough. I guess that's it. Yes. Ferris, believe me, I could make a running list of soft takes about Ryan Day. There have been many. Good morning, college football. Well, good morning, college football. When we tried our morning show a few months ago, I can't even remember what I called it. Wake up, college football. Wake up, college football. I'm thinking 10 a.m. is a little late to start. Good, but it certainly is in the morning. So the good morning college football, I think, is a good take. We will include that one. Mr. Rogers College Football Neighborhood. Mike, if we were doing this show in 1978, that could possibly be something that people would catch on to, possibly. Blue Wolverine, thank you for being here. Appreciate the contribution. Your Voice Daily on the Voice of College Football. I received a like from you on that comment. Yes, we saw that. Absolutely. Oh, a Remember the Titans reference. I'm like, see, if you guys go movie references on me, you know what? I'm going to pick up on like 3.4% of those. I have never seen Remember the Titans. When I get an urge to, I will do that. Voice of College Football Daily. And there we have it. I think we've exhausted the choices, but we are still open to your suggestions. I got about 3 or 4 in mind, and we will lock that down. I made the statement sometime this week that I always thought growing up that my favorite late night show before Letterman was Johnny Carson. So how would people refer to that show? They would just say, Johnny Carson's on tonight. It rarely was referred to as the Tonight Show at some point in which Johnny Carson became the guy. It was just Johnny Carson. Letterman, that was the David Letterman show eventually, but it didn't start out that way. Wasn't it something, the David Letterman show? Yeah. Leno kind of got into that category of just people referring to that as Leno's on, not the Tonight Show. Do they even still have a Tonight Show? What is the status of these late night shows? I know Colbert's still out there spewing a bunch of nonsense, and Jimmy Kimmel, whose show did he take over? Or did he just start his own show when he started his show? Did he take over a show, become the new host of a show, or did he just start a show? Same thing with, who's the other guy from Saturday Night Live a long time ago? Not Seth, but the other guy. I can't think of his name. Who am I thinking of? Kind of a Weasley kind of guy. Who am I thinking of? Jimmy Fallon. Thank you. Yeah, Jimmy Fallon. Did Jimmy Fallon take over somebody else's show? Oh, Jimmy Fallon does the Tonight Show, and Jimmy Kimmel created his own show. You know, other than the great Johnny Carson and the great David Letterman, I can't say. Now, there was a time when I got to admit I watched and thought Arsenio Hall was entertaining and thought he got great guests and he had a great show. Other than that, you know who had a Craig Ferguson was funny. I got into his show for a little while, Craig Ferguson, but that's been what, 2005, probably 2010. And the former ESPN anchor, the dude with the blonde hair, he had a hilarious show. He was really good. Who am I thinking of? What's his name? Help me out. ESPN anchor, blonde hair, really arrogant and smug, which made it funny. Craig Kilborn. Thank you. Man, goodness gracious. That guy's name left my brain. And he just kind of disappeared. But wow. Yeah, Kilborn. He was hilarious. Do I read the chat? Yes, whatever your name is. Ty Kev. I do read the chat at times. I can't read it all the time, but I do at times. So did not think we were getting into late night hosts, but I always enjoy the diversion of topics from time to time. All right, we do appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. There is apparently nothing on your minds for anyone to give me a call today, so that's fine. We are done for the day. Tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern is the Michigan Call-In Show. We've got the Michigan Call-In Show at 8 Eastern, and competing directly against it is the, I forget what it's called. Joey's got a show on the West Virginia channel on Thursday nights. It's some kind of mismatch, cross matchup, something involving matchups. Crossover, that's it. The crossover show on the West Virginia channel. Appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. I've got a Tropicana Between the Hashes with Mark Rogers. The Morning Blitz. Aaron, thank you for that. We'll get those down as well. Appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. You know what? I know I've said this all week, that if I choose one of my own titles, then nobody wins anything. No. We can't do that. Even if I don't choose any of your titles, whatever is the second choice, you are the winner. You'll get gear. Let's do that. We will do that. Absolutely. We cannot in any way not have somebody win this contest. So thank you for that. I would ask that for those people that made naming suggestions, that you would take those naming suggestions, leave those in the comment section, because they're going to be lost and we will not keep those. Yes, Crossover Thursday. Thank you, Jackson. And we've got the Michigan Call-In Show. Give it a try. They are building a great channel over on the Michigan channel. So check it out. Somebody else started it, got it going, got it revved up, and they are bringing it back to life. So we appreciate our guys over on the Michigan channel. Right here at the Voice of College Football. We will see you next time. And remember, this weekend, be looking out for those notifications because I'm going to go live at some point to go over program rankings for 2024, to go over all-time program rankings that will stir up much debate. And then, of course, we are reviewing every national championship in the history of college football because there has to be so much that is reviewed and adjusted and torn to shreds and rebuilt there in terms of national championships. Great to see you here. Have a great day. We will see you on the Michigan show at 8 or the crossover show at 8 as well.